Good morning, good Monday morning. Again, I'm back with my final conversation with a gray area drinking coach. And today, Joy Herbst is a nurse practitioner, and she's going to be joining me as soon as her request comes through here. And I'm excited to have Joy as the last one who, hold on, I'm watching. Who joins us because I want to tell you our backstory about working together and her in the coach training. So here she comes. Hold on just a minute. Hi, Joy.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. It's good to see
So
you.
I know, good to see you. So as I was bringing you in, I just mentioned about how I'm so excited to have you. You're wrapping up my series for this series of conversations with gray area drinking coaches because the next training starts a week from today. So a week from today, I'm going to be
Yay!
in the live training with the new coaches and practitioners that are coming through. But something that I say often, kind of talking about this training is I started it 3 years ago. And really, the big reason why I started doing this is because practitioners and coaches were coming to me, and you were one of them. You were one of the original ones 3 years ago who came to me as a nurse practitioner saying, I'm a licensed nurse practitioner. I've gone through coach trainings. You identify yourself as a former gray area drinker. You want to work with gray area drinkers, but you didn't feel confident with your
Mhm.
background that you'd already had to work with clients. So I would welcome Joy. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you, thank you. Yes,
So let's start there. Can you tell everybody kind of your story with that 3 years ago?
yeah, absolutely. So as you said, I'm a nurse practitioner and also in recovery from gray area drinking. And I knew that my path was taking me into some bit of coaching. Even as a nurse practitioner, I knew that I loved to be able to sit down and work with people and talk about their diet and their mind-body connection and how they can support themselves that way. And when I knew that I had really a lot of gifts to offer as a woman who was no longer drinking, I wanted to be able to support women in that way. So I started looking through different sober coaching programs. And I got certified as a coach and was midway through other coaching programs through the IRC. I I wanted to find ways in which to kind of blend more of like the real functional aspects of it, how to actually support people in recovery and living a sober life. A lot of the coaching programs that I was doing, two of the coaching programs that I was doing, was really kind of fundamental. And I found that it's stuff that I had already had as a registered nurse, as an APRN as well. And it just seemed a little basic. And I wanted to get a little bit more deeper into the functional medicine piece. So looking at some different trainings with Christina Veselock offers a training, and I went through that, and that offered kind of an overarching functional medicine piece. But again, I really wanted something to cohesively kind of blend it all together, all of it in one nice, neat little basket. And when I started asking around, I was directed to you. And so then I started banging on your door asking you to show me the way. So I was really happy when you agreed to do that.
Yeah, and you were one of many who were coming to me. I didn't have a program, and you were
Mhm.
saying, "Would you teach me? Would you share what you've been doing with clients?" I'd been seeing clients for 2 years up to that point, and had given my TED talk about 6 months earlier, and so it was literally about 3 years ago this time, and I did a beta test of this training with you and one other coach. So the three
Mhm.
of us together went through, I don't even quite remember. I think we did like maybe 6 weeks. Do you
Yeah,
remember?
yeah. We were kind of hashing it out and seeing what stuck and what kind of made sense and what was most helpful to us, which I love being part of that process because given the live feedback, we were able to see like, well, what about this? Can you tease out this a little bit more? So that was really exciting being part of that process because you really wanted to make it practical and applicable to practitioners, which I really appreciated.
Yeah, yeah. So I think it's so fun for everybody to hear from you,
Hmm.
to really kind of help share the evolution of this training and how I started it and how it's evolved So then going in, then you were in my first group. There were 13 that summer, 2018. Do you want to share about that and what that experience was like for you?
Oh, it was really exciting because, again, it gave me the information that I was really hoping to be able to apply to clients. I think it's a really well-rounded program because you do talk about the functional medicine piece, make it very um, practical, and it's not being too heady or too over the top where it might be overwhelming to see how you're actually going to translate that into client care. Um, so I really enjoyed being able to I don't know, just be able to learn by the different modules because I think that it's really comprehensive in the ways that you can take all the different aspects of it and the wellness wheel and finding the different ways that you can um, make sure that when you're supporting a client that you are doing so in a holistic way that seems very, very comprehensive but meaningful.
Yeah, yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
So tell everyone. So again, those who are joining, this is Joy Herbst, and your Instagram your Instagram handle,
Is Joy Dances.
Joy Dances, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And oh, what's your website for people to find you?
JoyHerbst.com.
Great, great. And
Yeah.
so Joy is, so tell everybody your kind of all your professional trainings, licensing, your background.
Well, first of all, hence the Instagram name, Dances. I started off as a dancer and I had an injury that was alcohol related. So my dance career was waylaid, but I started working in healthcare, first as a medical assistant, and then realized I wanted to become a registered nurse, became a registered nurse, but always knew that I wanted to become a nurse practitioner. So I became a nurse practitioner in 2008 after I'd been an RN for 6 years. Um, and I've worked in internal medicine and women's health and OBGYN and reproductive endocrinology. And, I really loved the idea of supporting women. I love the idea and the profession of being a nurse practitioner. But given the way that medicine has kind of transitioned, it's very difficult to find a connection with our patients because you're forced to see patients within 5 and 15 minute increments. It feels really kind of unsatisfying, dissatisfying to be able to have any type of continuity. And then when I stopped drinking and realized how much of a huge impact that was having in my own life, I really wanted to be able to bring my experiences of sobriety to other women because it's such a needed service. So many women are really drinking in the gray area drinking, and they're miserable, but they're still functioning. And it's such a lack that we have in our system because many women find that if they're still doing everything that they need to do, quote unquote, that they're fine. They can keep on drinking in the way that they are. Um, so then when I went to find different coaching programs, it was a little confusing to find. It was a little bit of a wild west out there about 3 years ago. And I think it's getting a little bit more simplified now. But it just really supports that you need to resonate with people that you want to learn from, and why you want to practice in the way that you practice and what it is that you actually want to offer people. And given that, as I said earlier, that I'd had so much of the therapeutic communication aspects of just patient care, bedside care, I really wanted to get deeper, but to find ways that it would be very practical. Just this is what you need to do. This is what you need to support yourself in, and that's what I really found with the gray area drinking coaching program.
Thank you. And it's very
Yeah.
much been my intention because I've heard this from the very beginning, and why I did the pilot with just you and one other coach of people, practitioners and coaches are saying, I need the how to in the day to
Mm-hmm.
day, in the interaction with the clients, because that's what clients want.
Mm-hmm.
And as a practitioner, as a coach, I have the theory. Like I have the theory about how to coach and kind of the fundamentals behind nursing and that kind of thing. But
Mm-hmm.
now how do I translate that, like you say, and actually work with a gray area drinker in an hour?
Right.
So what are some things that you found helpful, from the training that, that you were looking for, and that maybe you didn't find in your previous training?
Yeah, I mean, I think, it's not enough to just be compassionate, right? Like we need to have a real acute ear. We need to listen for the cues that our clients are teaching us or sharing with us when we're speaking with them. And I love that you gave us like these little red flags, to kind of listen for. Um, because at the end of the day, when you have like your whole toolbox of all these different things that you want to share with someone, and I learned this way back when I actually myself went as a patient to a naturopath, and she gave me this laundry list of things to do that I should be doing. It felt very defeatist and overwhelming. And I know her heart was in the right place, but I didn't end up doing any of it. It's like it's way too much. Um, so by prioritizing, really sussing out what a client is bringing to you, what their relative pertinent issues are, and then just seeing, how are they feeding themselves? How are they managing their schedule? How are they, all the different things that we try to just very simply give them to look at and then hold them accountable to that so that they can, really start to feel the impact of living a sober life and doing it successfully.
Yeah, I think that's such a good point to highlight. That is such a thread of this training. And in some of the other interviews, we've talked a lot about the resources. And yes, there are
Mm-hmm.
tremendous practical resources, in this training that I give practitioners. But
Mm-hmm.
it's not just about now you have all these resources on the table and just pick something up to randomly pick it up, or we're just throwing spaghetti against the wall. There really is a practice about
Mm-hmm.
how and when we might pick up a certain resource or not, and then how we're having kind of that back and forth engagement with the client. So it's not just random, like, oh, here's a resource. I
Right.
learned about it in a coach training, give it a try.
Right.
What you're alluding to is there's this piece of what we're listening to, how we're learning about the nervous system, what's in front of us, and that's the differentiator with, as a coach coming in, as a practitioner coming in, how we're working with gray area drinking clients that's different than just kind of, as you say, motivational interviewing,
Mm-hmm.
finding strengths.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. And, I think that when we start to get more of a skilled ear at listening, it's so much easier just to pull that stuff out and then be able to play it back to the client and say like, well, this sounds like this would be a good thing to do, and this would be helpful. And, even I love that very simply I could, look at a woman's schedule and just see, as a busy mom, like what's her day in, day out, and what her triggers are and when it is that she wants to drink. And then just being able to focus on what's leading up to, what's the antecedent or what's the predisposing factor that's going to lead her to drink. And then circumnavigating that, like, well, let's do this. Let's get out in front of it. Let's make sure that you're doing this and this. And then, the rest is gravy, that's what we're focusing on. But let's just keep you not drinking for today. And then moving on to the next day, and then just fine tuning that each week that we would speak. It's really practical and effective.
Yeah. Do you want to share a little bit, again, kind of pulling all of this together? And this is what coaches do. Everybody has
Mm-hmm.
their different expertise. As a nurse practitioner, as a therapist, they already have that foundation, the functional medicine side of things, and then putting the gray area drinking, the nuance of this coaching on top of it, of how you've been working with individuals. And I want to talk about your group work too, but talk a little bit about that, about some, when you're working with clients and groups, with putting this kind of all together in that practical way.
As far as examples of what I like to do with folks,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, as you know, I wear many hats, and I like to really kind of pull from. I refer to it as the sober toolbox. I think it's essential that every person has a sober toolbox when they're looking for alcohol-free living. But I teach yoga, and I think the movement practices are really, really important to be able to have folks get settled into the body. It's deeply healing, but it's also a much needed respite because we spend so much of our time up in our minds and busy monkey mind. Um, so, teaching the yoga in my dance classes are very instrumental in how I work with people. Teaching meditation, making sure that there's a meditative practice that can be conveyed. And if folks are not coming to my meditation classes, being able to point them to resources that I know of that they can utilize. Um, and I don't know if I'm answering your question
Yeah.
okay.
Yes.
Um,
Well, and then share too about your group work that you have right now. Yeah.
Yeah, so I was a Women for Sobriety meeting moderator for some years. That was the self-help group that I chose to kind of start my sobriety journey with when I really wasn't taking to AA very much, and so I wanted something that was women-centric, women-focused, and I worked with that group for some time, and like I said, moderated meetings. And then I felt that I really wanted to kind of deepen that offering and start something fresh and new that offered a little bit more of the empowerment piece for women, drawing from spiritual significance if that resonated, and really like self-coaching aspects. So an associate of mine, we started the Sober Women's Meeting, and that's something that we do online and also face to face here where I live in Fairfield, Connecticut. Right now, for the winter time, we're doing everything on Zoom on Thursdays and Saturdays, but we do a mix of a Zoom meeting on Thursday nights, and then we do a live face to face on Saturdays. So that's been
Wonderful.
really exciting. Yeah, it's great.
And people can find that on your website, right?
Yes. Yep. I have that listed on the website. I'm also on Meetup, but I'm also on, you know, I'm everywhere. But yes, it's on my website. So the website is Joy Herbst, and the last name is HERB as in boy, S as in Sam, T as in Tom.
Wonderful. And I'll put that link below this recording along with your Instagram
Oh,
handle.
great. Thank you. That's awesome.
So, 3 years ago, you were wanting to do more of this work, which you're doing
Mhm.
now. How has your confidence changed? How has kind of your outlook on working with groups, working with others shifted going through the gray area drinking coach training program?
Um, well, I think the very fact that it has brought it down from like a macrocosm to something that's more discrete and specific, that helps you feel more confident and more competent. And I think knowing that I have so many great resources that I can pluck from, but also keeping it really dialed in for each individual client has been great. It's really empowering to know that I have tried and true modalities and recommendations, that if they seem appropriate for that client, that I can offer them and really feel like I'm doing a great job with them.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Mm.
Yeah, and that's very different. I know kind of 3 years ago. You're confidently doing the work and working with groups, working one-on-one.
Hmm.
So I can see, the shift
Hmm.
from talking with you 3 years ago.
Yeah, no, it's definitely it's been great because when you first kind of start out and you're timid and finding your coaching voice really, and um, also finding what the role of a coach is in a person's life when you're in that relationship, that coach client relationship. That's it's really important that you have that boundary and that understanding of what your job is and what their job is and what you best can do to help them meet their goal. That's also really empowering, I found.
Yeah, because it's different than, and I hear this from a lot of nurses that go through the training,
Mm.
therapists and social workers, because you're not working as a nurse practitioner right now, correct?
When the pandemic hit, I stopped because I was staying home with my kids when their school was closed. So,
Okay, yeah. But there is that difference of working kind of under the umbrella from that traditional training of nursing as a therapist versus as a coach. And
hmm.
so, there's that shift of what you're speaking about of kind of, a coaching hat is just different than a nursing hat. And there's a bit of a jump and a bit of a transition to make. Do you want
Hmm.
to say any more about kind of the difference with coaching and nursing
Ooh.
and how you've been able to work with
Yeah.
that?
I mean, it's interesting. I mean, this could really be a huge conversation because as a nurse and as a nurse practitioner, um, there's a lot of kind of butting heads within the medical establishment between like medical and nursing sometimes, and nurse practitioners sometimes have to really um, traverse that landscape a little bit, as an independent prescriber. Here in Connecticut, I can see patients independently, especially after you've had 3 years of practice, which I have, writing prescriptions, obviously managing patients independently. But we're not doctors, and I would never presuppose or try to say that I am. I'm a nurse practitioner, and I really think that there's a very big difference with that. But you're still supposed to be like the expert, like you're this person that has this medical training, and um, patients come to you and they need your expert advice and how you can manage different parts of their care. And then with coaching, the client is the expert. They know what they need to do, but as a coach expert, you are learning what it is that you can support these people in, the clients in, but ultimately the onus is going to be on them. Um, that's it can be a little challenging to navigate that a little bit, but I think it's as even as a nurse practitioner, I think that you have to understand that it's not your responsibility for their care. Um, I don't know if I'm saying that clearly or not, but it gets confusing because you want to be able to support people in the best way that you can, but you also want to inspire folks to step up and take care of themselves in a way that they deserve to be cared for. So,
Yeah, it's the empowerment piece
mm,
of being our own, health advocates. And those of you who are jumping on, I'm talking with Joy Herbst, who started with me from the very beginning in my coach training. She did a pilot with me 3 years ago.
mhm,
I tested this out and then launched my first training the summer of 2018. And Joy is a nurse practitioner who is a recovery coach and specializes in gray area drinking. And we're just talking about, um, you know, straddling the two, because I talk with a lot of women, who come into this training, who are interested in this training, who have, like you, Joy, that traditional training. And I talk about it a lot too, about the, part of the problem of this drinking problem is traditional healthcare and
mhm,
how, that whole piece.
mhm,
But within the traditional healthcare system of nursing, therapy, social work, kind of that traditional licensing and training, there's many women like you, Joy. You have this story where you are ready to break free, and you've done that and kind of created, your own group and coaching um,
mhm.
under the coaching hat. So, and I talk to so many. So what would you say to women who are physicians and nurses and therapists, traditionally trained, saying, but I like more of this holistic side, and I really
Hmm.
resonate with this gray area, and I want to learn more. I want to do this work, but it's not easy to break free.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I think that this is just the future of healthcare, though, quite honestly. I think as clinicians or practitioners or even coaches, um, you know, it's a field where to we want to support and attract the folks that most want our help. Um, and, in my experience when I was working in community health, a lot of the times that was a difficult barrier because people would have difficulty accessing care. And it was a big struggle in trying to find the means for people to support themselves. But also, I mean, community health is very, very challenging. I will say that. But when you're working with clients in a coaching capacity where you really get to kind of stretch out a little bit and cover so many of the different areas that you may not have been able to in a more traditional or internal medicine or a specific medical modality. And coaching is it's just really fulfilling because it allows you to really look at all the different ways in which people can be supported and should be supported. in order to really just support themselves in a healthy lifestyle. And I don't know, being part of that is really, really exciting, because I think our medical model just doesn't really allow us to feel like we're making a big impact nowadays. It's unfortunate.
What's been your favorite thing about working with gray area drinkers?
Well, I mean, I think I was kind of touching on it just there is this feeling that you have this really deep connection with people. You feel that what you're doing is effective, that there is something that you are affecting change in. And you're part of a catalyst for empowerment, and I work with women, so I feel it's really my words are at a loss right now. I feel like it's very important for women to feel empowered in their self-care. And because of the fact that we've seen so many women struggle with alcohol use and abuse, that it's just been brushed under the rug for so long. And it feels like a big role of in activism as well, and being able to support women in this way, because they hadn't been for so very long. And the choices that women had when looking for alcohol treatment was a very different model and wasn't necessarily catered to women specifically. So I feel like when I'm coaching women, it just feels like I'm really getting in there and I'm helping them support themselves, and it's awesome.
Well said.
Thanks.
Well said. Those of you who are watching live, if you have a question for Joy, feel free to type it in the chat. Again, Joy is a nurse practitioner, a recovery coach, a gray area drinking coach. She works with women one-on-one and in community, in groups as well in Connecticut. What have we not touched on? What did we miss around just this conversation about kind of the medical side of things, the traditional training, recovery training, and gray area drinking?
Well, one thing that I found was really helpful during the training too is, and this kind of, refers back to the mindset of being a nurse practitioner and thinking that you're supposed to know everything and be able to figure it out. But, you were really strong in stating that, you have to be able to identify when you need to refer out, when you need to resource out, building up your file of facts or whatever, your files of folks that you can refer to, having, good therapists and embodiment workers and body workers and, all these people that you can kind of collect as resources. And I think that that's a really important part, is that, again, it takes a village, so to speak. You really need to dip into all these different wells and find how best to support your clients. And that's a really important aspect to be able to identify and recognize.
Yeah, as you know, I'm very big on staying in our lane. Professionally, ethically, legally. There is so much value in this coaching. So when you have a coach who has a foundational background in traditional health, whether it be a therapist, a social worker, a nurse practitioner, a physician, a nutritionist, a coach of whatever capacity, that they have that foundation. There's so much value in that when you layer that on top then with this nuance of gray area drinking, and the clients receive so much. There's so much value in that niched wheel of genius.
Yeah.
And we stay in our lane with it. And this is a big part of, the training too, of when referrals come in. It's a whole kind of side bonus training, and assessing. We do this, as you know, day one, week one. There's very specific. It's not just a theoretical kind of in theory. It's very specific of in that first 15-minute conversation, what gray area drinking coaches are looking for, where their antenna are going up, to whether they're going to go on or refer with a client. So it's not just kind of just kind of a friendly conversation. this training from the very beginning, coaches are learning what they need to look for and listen for,
Mm-hmm.
so that there is that we're in our lane, so we can really provide value to the gray area drinking clients that work with us.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a success on both sides. So thank you for highlighting that.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's again because of the fact that there's just so many different things out there. It just really helps to find a systematic way in which to. Well, I don't want to say like just prioritize what it is that these clients need and how to figure out would it be best served this way or that way, because how many times have you gotten a client that's like, oh, I'm seeing a homeopath and this and therapy, I've been doing it for years. Like, well, how's that working out for you? It's been seeing them for years, but do you feel like, you're making any leaps and bounds? I've had actually a client who's kept two therapists, one that she told that she drank and then one that she didn't. And it's like, well, what are we doing here? Let's try to stay in the lane
Yeah.
and get at what you want to do, by being sober and how to get there.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So again, this is the gray area drinking profile. Gray area drinkers are very well read, come in pretty well resourced, listen to the podcast, read the books, have been to the practitioners, but they're seeking gray area drinking coaching because they're still drinking.
Mm-hmm.
So this is what this coaching is to really work with the client and start breaking down what are the missing pieces here. Because there's a lot of pieces on the table, but something's not clicking, something's missing. And working with a gray area drinking coach really helps to get in there and start to identify from a physiological nervous system level what hasn't been syncing up.
Right.
And then what could be the support that could finally be that piece that clicks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's, incredibly overlooked the impact of the nervous system. We just expect that we're supposed to just saddle up and go until we collapse. And, if alcohol is what's helping us to get over the finish line or to get us to sleep or whatever, like that's just what we need to do. And when you finally realize just how miserable it's actually making you and what's going to end up happening if you continue on this path, then, things need to change. So, the nervous system piece is really fundamental in being able to support folks because it's so underappreciated, undervalued, and underaddressed.
I agree.
Yeah.
What would you say to those, again, we're going to start 1 week from today.
Yay.
Right now, we'll be in the very first training. This time, I offer 2 trainings a day because I have people from Australia, the UK, around the US, different schedules.
So cool.
So noon Eastern, which is right now, will be in the first training, and then 7 Eastern, that same day, I do the second training for those who the first time didn't work. And the same thing on Fridays when we do the case studies. So we meet at noon Eastern and 7 Eastern, whatever works for people. So this is my last interview for this series. So thank you, Joy.
Yay.
What would
Thank
you
you.
say to those who, are thinking it's 1 week, am I going to do it? Am I going to jump into this round or should I wait? Or what would you say to those coaches and practitioners who have been watching and listening but haven't yet signed up?
I mean, I think if they've been listening to you and they're considering it, then they should obviously just do it. It's such a great training. It's very well-rounded. And as we've been talking, it's very succinct. It's very, just a very lovely system that allows you to really just find the people that you need to help and be able to best serve them. So if you're considering it, or if you have been watching Jolene or following Jolene and you like what she's offering, you should just do it because she's awesome. She's great.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
And, and the other interviews have been saying, and I'm assuming you'd be open as well, Joy, that if somebody's listening and wants to reach out to you, like DM you or message you about the training, because I think it's nice too. I mean, you hear from me, but I think it's nice too to actually talk with other coaches who have gone through the training. So are you open to that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, absolutely. You can send me a message here. You can email me at joy@joyherbs.com. Whatever works. But of course, Instagram, it's easy to pop off a direct message, and I'm happy to talk to anybody who's interested.
Wonderful. Thank you.
For
So I will
sure.
put all your information below. I'm so glad you guys got to hear and see Joy, who was my original tester for this training before it was ever public. She and another coach went through a beta round with me 3 years ago this spring.
Hmm.
So so fun for everyone to see you, hear from you, Joy. Her information's below. Reach out to me. The application is in my Instagram bio. You can go to grayareadrinkers.com, practitioner training, fill out the application. We start in a week, so just a couple more
Yay.
days. Would love to have you. If you're watching, if this is, if there's any kind of call right now, this is the time. I mean, we know how much drinking has increased,
Mm,
and this whole gray area drinking, pandemic drinking, it's hand in hand.
yeah.
And people need practitioners and coaches who understand the dynamics, understand the nervous system, and know how to work with clients and not just throw spaghetti on the wall and say, well,
Hmm.
go meditate.
Right.
We need to know what that connection is and what we're working with with each nervous system of when we're resourcing, why we're resourcing, and to really, every step of the way be with the client. But clients need this. So would
Hmm.
love to have you in the training. If it's calling you, we start 1 week from today.
Yay. It's very exciting. I hope you guys do it. It's awesome. So good.
Thank you, Joy, for taking the time to be here with me. And
Yeah. Thank you.
you and I will talk soon.
Okay. Sounds great.
Thanks for
Bye.
tuning in, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.